Hello listeners, Jordan here. I just want to let you know that you can listen to Nighttime early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
You are listening to the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello listeners, and welcome to the next installment of Nighttime Podcast's listener-contributed Encounters with Creeps series. If you're new here, I'm Jordan, and a couple years ago I asked listeners of Nighttime to share with me their stories of creepy people. And as it turns out, y'all are some real creep magnets. In this episode, we're going to be diving into the 22nd volume of your stories of unsettling encounters with creepy people. During this episode, Madelayne Klein and I are going to hear about creeps near a church, creeps in cars, creeps in Amsterdam, a creep with a lighter, and a whole bunch more. So buckle up and welcome to another volume of your Encounters with Creeps. Miss Madelayne Klein, it's volume 22 of Encounters with Creeps.
22. I saw that today actually on the invite you sent me.
Yeah, and you're like, maybe we've gone too far?
No, today is November 18th and yesterday was our 2-year anniversary.
Oh, really?
It was, so happy anniversary, bestie.
Yeah, 2 years. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I'm very good at dates, so I remember.
Time flies. Well, yeah, happy anniversary. Let's celebrate our anniversary by getting right into it here. We have a great collection of listener-contributed encounters with creeps, but we also have a great in-the-news creep story that I'm excited to get into with you. We always start our Encounters with Creep stories with these kind of mainstream creep encounters that make their way into the news, and there's one that comes out of Kelowna, BC that I think is really interesting. We'll call this the Knox Mountain Creeper, and the story itself is interesting, but even in the news they're referring to this guy as a creepy guy and a creep, which I think is maybe like our influence spreading. I'll tell you the story and play a bit of a clip here. So a creep in Kelowna, BC made a lot of people uncomfortable over the last month. Knox Mountain, if you're unfamiliar, is a popular outdoor recreational area known for its beautiful hiking trails. But the mood on the mountain was a little shadier when hikers began sharing stories about encounters with a creep dressed all in black with his face covered and a rope in his hands. Here's what it sounds like when these kinds of stories make their way to the news.
This is the eerie video of a hooded figure dressed all in black that has everyone talking today on the trail to Paul's tomb in Knox Mountain Park.
There's a person that's acting in a suspicious behavior and been described as a creepy dude and scaring some of the people who are walking.
At first glance, the video seems to have all the trappings of a home video horror movie or a viral web hoax. But it's garnered a number of corroborating comments since being posted online last Saturday. And now the RCMP are taking the encounter seriously, saying they have received a number of similar complaints and as a result are stepping up patrols in the area, searching for the mysterious man some are now calling the Knox Mountain Creeper.
You never know what their intentions are.
So Cheryl Hearn packed a little extra punch today on the trail.
You got to be safe. You got to be prepared.
Ready to use this pepper spray for big bruins or as a last resort in case of stranger danger.
I brought it today, because of the story I read.
Footage of the macabre figure didn't seem to deter anyone from enjoying a beautiful fall day today on the popular trail, as it was extremely busy. Still, the specter of the viral video and the person in it was on the minds of many.
Obviously, it's a concern, but I hope that we don't encounter it.
So far, there hasn't been any crime. He's just been scaring people, so we think we'll be okay.
Despite the fact that no criminal offense has occurred, police still want to identify this individual and ascertain their well-being and their intentions. And so in order to further that effort, Kelowna RCMP are reminding people that if they do run into this suspicious-looking character on the trail to Paul's tomb, that they don't just post the video that they take of him online, but rather contact the police immediately.
So that reminds me kind of the clown scare of 2016 when people
Yes,
were seeing clowns just standing creepily on the side of the road.
that's exactly what it reminded me of.
The video that they're talking about that went viral is somebody captured a video of this guy just kind of standing off the path in the bushes, again, all dressed completely in black with his face covered, and he's just kind of lingering around over there. And when they posted it, it started a conversation of other people in that area saying, like, I saw him too, and and sharing their creep encounters. And it got to the point that, as you just heard, it was like global news was covering it. Um, Police, I thought this was interesting. At the end of the news clip there, we heard that police don't want you to like write about it online or put up videos. They want you to call them. I wonder if that's their way to try to like, let's not encourage these people, whoever's doing this. Let's just let us figure it out.
Yeah, it's and of course it's leading up to somewhere called Paul's Tomb.
Yeah, it sounds
Ugh.
pretty eerie. Um, as you said while the clip was playing, I heard you say like he's creepy, but he's not
That's
doing
not
anything.
illegal.
Yeah, that leads us to the update. So that clip we just heard on the news was like mid-September. About a week later, another article was published based on a press release letting people know that an arrest was made. I'll read it to you here. On Friday morning, just after 8 p.m., police were called again about a suspicious person on Knox Mountain. Officers and members of the Community Safety Unit quickly responded using police cars and an ATV to secure the area. They found the subject of the complaint at the base of the mountain and arrested him without any issues. Police believe this man is connected to several earlier reports about suspicious activity on Knox Mountain. The man's now being held in Kelowna and has an outstanding warrant. Officers plan to question him about why he was on the trail, said Corporal Michael Gauthier. And that's the end of it. No
It is
news
just
about.
so odd.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell? Where's the rest of the story? I kind of expected this to be, police responded and they found a guy dressed in black and the three idiot friends with their phones who were filming him, that sort of thing. But
Yeah,
but they found him alone, which is weird. And he has
true.
an outstanding warrant, so this isn't just like some kid doing a prank. It's at least someone who has some interactions with the law. Uh, so it is a bit eerier. And if I was going to have to give a decision somewhere on a scale of like idiot to creep, I'm going to lean heavily towards creep in this story.
Yeah, this one's definitely teetering on the side of creep.
Very much teetering. We'll have to make these same kind of analysis on the upcoming listener contributed stories that we're about to hear. I have a collection of 7, and often when we do these, I'll try to break up the creep encounters into individual kind of themes. I'm not going to do that tonight. The theme is just going to be chaos because we're just going to go from one random creep encounter to another, and we got some doozies here. Let's start. You want to start in Amsterdam?
Yeah, I've been there. It's great.
Before we went live here, you were showing me photos of your dad and his really cool band back in the 80s.
Yep, late 70s, early
Do
80s.
you want to give a shout out to his band?
Tracks with 2 X's.
Of course. I bring up your dad and his amazing, probably hair metal band from the 80s because this next story involves a listener named Bailey who went traveling in Amsterdam and decided to bring her dad along. And they got into a bit of a situation at a hostel in Amsterdam. Here's the story of Bailey's late night visitor.
Hi, Jordan and Madeline. This is Bailey. I am from the US and I love your Encounters with Creeps series. I just listened to the latest installment and the story about the girl traveling alone reminded me of my story traveling. So after college, I wanted to travel. I had never been overseas, so I decided to be an au pair. I was an au pair in Madrid, and I went by myself. And honestly, I had a really great experience, especially like going alone. I really only have a couple of stories, and they both have to do with hostels. So my dad came to visit me whenever I was over there, and we planned like to go to all these different countries. Funny thing about my dad is that he is not a planner, but he wants to make sure we're going to do cool stuff. So he always is like, okay, you plan everything. Here's my card. Just don't spend too much money. So I'm like, okay. We were getting Airbnbs like everywhere we went, but we were supposed to go to Amsterdam, and I could not find a good Airbnb right in the city. And we were only going to be in Amsterdam for one day. So I was like, well, we don't want to stay too far out of the city. So I find this very nice hostel in the city. And I was like, wow, this one's really nice. Looks clean, professional. So I'm like, Dad, it's one night. Like, what do you think? I'm sure he probably didn't even know what he was agreeing to, but he was like, sure, book it. So we book it, get to Amsterdam, get to the hostel. It's very nice. Put our stuff away. We go have a great day, great night, and we get back late. There's only like one person in the room, so we go to bed. And you know how hostels are, like throughout the night, people are coming in and stuff. It was a small room, though. I think there was only like 6 beds. So we're asleep. But at one point, it's like the middle of the night, there's knocking on the door, and it just keeps knocking. And you have to have a key card to get in. So I'm like, I'm not getting up to let this person in. Like, they need to go get a card or whatever. But someone else in the room gets up and lets them in. I go back to sleep. But from what my dad says, he could hear this guy hiccuping. He was... I mean, we're in Amsterdam. God knows what all he was on. And the funny thing is my dad was like right next to where the lockers were. And he was like, I was scared he was going to throw up on my shoes. Well, we go back to sleep. And the next thing I know is there is someone climbing into bed with me. And I'm on the top bunk. My dad is on the bottom. So I shoot up, and I'm pretty sure my exact words were, what the fuck? And this guy is like trying to get in bed with me. And he's like, what are you doing in my bed? And I'm like, your bed? What are you talking about? Like, this is my bed. And it's funny because like, we can laugh about it now. And when my dad tells the story, he's like, he shot up. He, was ready to protect me. And my dad is not a small guy, but this guy was huge. And he was like, yeah, I thought I was going to get my ass kicked. So we go back and forth. I'm like, you can have the bed. Like, I don't care. Take the bed. I'll get in another bed. I just want to go back to sleep. This guy is in like boxers at this point. He had like taken all his clothes off, and he's like, well, I'm going downstairs. I'm going to get this figured out. I'm like, go. So when he goes downstairs, I call down there just to let them know the situation. They call me back like 15 minutes later. They're like, oh, everything's resolved. He was on the wrong floor. So this guy did really think I was in his bed. So I don't know what y'all think. Maybe not a creep story. Maybe just an honest mistake. I still kind of think he was a creep. But if anything, I hope this is entertaining. Love what you do. Have a good one.
I don't know where on the scale that goes. I guess the scale is usually like idiot to creep. You can become an idiot due to intoxication. So,
oh, no. The idiot is whoever let him in.
Yeah, seriously.
I have a bone to pick with them. They are the nucleus of this problem.
If they didn't let him in, he would have went downstairs to like the reception or whatever it was. They would have been like, "You're on floor 4. Like, do you need us to carry you up there in a wheelbarrow?"
Right. Yeah, but I mean, like, dude, I get it might be dark. I have gotten into a hostel at like 2 a.m. and tried not to wake anyone, but like, you didn't notice someone was sleeping on the bunk you were trying to get on?
But in his mind, they were in his bunk, so he challenged them. And I guess the delay in him getting in the unit, because he comes in, she's like interrupted by him coming in, but she goes back to sleep. That's probably because he's coming in, waddling around, takes his clothes off, maybe goes to the bathroom, and he's finally, like, after, I can only imagine he had a very long night in Amsterdam that leads up to this. He finally curls into bed with her, and
wasn't the exactly what he had in his mind.
But I don't think it was anything like. I don't think he was.
Wasn't done in malice, or no.
No, he wanted her out of the bed, if anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's
bunk.
Maybe this is better suited for our spin-off show, Encounters with like Drunk Idiots.
Yeah, I like that.
Is he a creep?
Misunderstandings with drunk idiots.
That would be a great series. Like
I would be the
listeners,
star.
listeners contributing their stories of times they've encountered a drunk person and couldn't properly communicate with them.
Our email or our voicemail inbox is just overflowing even more.
Yeah. This guy, I appreciate the story, Bailey. Definitely gave me a laugh. I'm glad your dad was there to experience all this. He's like, my daughter's traveling around the world alone. I'm going to go spend a night with her. I'm sure everything's fine. Then this.
For all the nights for that to happen, it was a good one for her dad to be there.
Let's go from Amsterdam, come back home, and we're going to hear the story about maybe a creep at a pool hall in Halifax. And I bet you a lot of good creep encounters begin at pool halls.
Hey, Jordan and Madelayne. I love the show, and this is my contribution for Encounters with Creeps. So, I live in Halifax. I mean, it's a relatively small place. Most people know everybody, but I didn't think it would turn into this. So, right before Christmas, a few friends and I were out playing pool, and this guy was there, and he was trying to figure out if I was married, and I wouldn't really talk to him or anything because, not for me. And I was polite and I just said, look, I'm not interested in being with you or anything like that. I don't want to go out on a date. And we left. At the time, he had told me that he didn't have social media, so I needed to give him my phone number, which I did not do. And when I got home, he had made a Facebook account to message me. And he messaged me a lot. And I didn't see them because they were in my message requests. And I was like, that's weird. Anyway, we're going to ignore that. I was working from home one day and I went out to let my dog out and there were flowers on my step. He had somehow found out where I lived and continued to allow himself to be creepy and drop flowers off of my step. And I left them there because that's not normal. And I was like, they could be tainted with something. I didn't know at that point it was from him. And then the messages started again. And he was like, that was me. I just wanted to give you a present because you're so beautiful. And I was like, that's fucked. Like, what? Anyway, I didn't even respond to any of them and I blocked them. And since then, I just checked my Facebook message requests, and it's now May. He had made another account and was messaging me off that. So now I have 3 accounts of this guy blocked because he's just a strange duck. So yeah, that's my creep story.
What do you think of this?
That one is not only creepy, but so cringy.
Yeah.
Dude, stop.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't understand. And she didn't even beat around the bush. She was like, thanks, but no thanks.
To set up a Facebook account to write to someone is really weird. If you get
and then a new one and then once they block you.
And then another new one, it's just like, whoa, take the hint. I think, setting up the Facebook account and writing her, that's a huge leap. Leaving flowers on her step, that's the ultimate leap of faith. If you do that and it doesn't go well, if she doesn't decide to marry you that night, you need to just crawl into a hole and never come out again because you failed at romance.
How do these people feel no shame or embarrassment? Because I could, back in my single days, if maybe I came on to someone and it wasn't reciprocated, it was so embarrassing. I would stop trying and leave, right?
Yeah.
Why would you continue to, what do you think's going to happen?
The flowers are going to do. Yeah, she blocked my accounts, but when she gets these flowers, there's no way she'll resist me.
This will be a good story for our children.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't take no for an answer, kids.
And I find I'm someone I really read body language in vibes, usually in against me as well. I'm usually picking up these vibes against me. So I couldn't imagine in this story, did he not have sense at any part of this that whoa, I need to not waste my time. I'm being a creep. Apparently not. And if you can't read vibes, then yeah, your potential to be a creep is way higher, I suspect.
I'd love to know how his brain works because like I want to know what his train of thought was. Ugh.
Let's move on to the next story. So our prior story, we heard about Bailey going to Amsterdam with her dad. We have a story from a listener named Marissa that also involves a dad. She was actually staying at her dad's house and she ended up getting locked out. And while locked out of her dad's house, she encountered you guessed it. Here it comes.
What do I win?
You get to listen to this.
Hi, Jordan and Madelayne. I just want to tell you that I absolutely love your Encounter with Creeps series. That's one of my favorite podcast events. I look forward to every single one. My name is Marissa. I am calling from the East Coast of the United States. And one of my most probably annoying creep encounters happened 10 years ago. I was visiting my father. I was staying with him for a week or two, and he had gone out during the day. I didn't know when he was coming back. And I wanted to throw out the garbage. So I get the garbage, I close the door behind me, and as soon as I shut the front door, I realized I did not have my keys to get in. And I didn't have my cell phone on me that was also inside. So I throw out the garbage, and now I'm just thinking, okay, what do I do? So I'm sitting in the hallway. But it was getting hot and I was getting restless, and the next door neighbor wasn't home. So I said, okay, it's daylight. It's a nice neighborhood. I'll just walk around. So I went outside, was walking around. A car passed me, and then he kind of came back, and he rolled down his window, and he started like keeping pace with me. So I'm trying to ignore him, but it's hard to ignore that there's a car going as slow as I'm walking, just keeping pace with me. So, and he's calling out to me, and I'm ignoring him. But then finally it was just so weird. So I just looked at him like as if to say, like, what's your problem, buddy? Like, you could tell I obviously looked annoyed. So he just started saying, oh, I think you're really pretty. I'd like to talk to you. So I'm like, no, thank you. And I look away because I figured the less I engage with him, the better. But he just keeps on talking and saying whatever he's saying, trying to compliment me and get me to talk to him, and making it like, oh, he's just a nice guy looking to meet someone, and why am I being so difficult about it? So I said, look, I'm engaged. Okay, you can go now. And he's like, oh, that doesn't matter. I just want to talk to you. So this went on and on and on. And finally, I just looked at him and I said, look, buddy, I'm a lesbian. Okay. I like women, which isn't true, but I just figured anything to get rid of this creep. And even that, he's looking at me. And like, I guess because I look feminine, he's like, I don't believe you. You're not a lesbian. And now he looks like he's annoyed at me, like as if I've broken his trust by lying to him while he's harassing a total stranger. So then finally, another car came behind him. And that's why he finally had to move on. And like, he looked annoyed, and I just didn't trust that he wouldn't come back. So I sort of just started running. I went towards, there's a park in the beginning of the development. I basically ran toward the park, and I figured there'll be parents and their kids there. It'll be safe. So I kind of just hung out on a swing, waiting and hoping that my father would be home soon. And I don't remember walking back from the park to my dad's house, but I'm sure I must have been looking over my shoulder for this creep. And luckily I never saw him again. I'm just so glad that car came along. Anyway, that's my creep encounter. You guys, just thank you for sharing all the creep stories that are out there. It's alarming, but you know what? It's good that we're talking about creeps. They should be publicly shamed for their ridiculousness. Okay, thank you. Take care. Bye.
Marissa's guys, in a similar vein to the last fella we heard about, it's just like, take a hint, dude, and go on. But I think like getting weird messages on Facebook is a lot more palatable than having him just like leering out his window and just bothering you while you're locked at your dad's house.
Well, that's the thing. Like, where was he going? Why wasn't he in a hurry?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who is driving? And it's like, ooh, attractive woman. Let me pull over and pester her. Like, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
And he's all mad. She didn't get in my car and
Yeah.
sleep with
No
me.
way she was a lesbian. She was just being mean.
Yeah.
Your attempt to pick up a woman fails miserably when at the end of it she runs to a park seeking like sanctuary.
If any interaction with a woman ends up with her running away, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, you've done it wrong, sir. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hear about a creep on a lake.
Awesome.
This is a listener named Nikki. She encountered someone at a lake that maybe, like, they were definitely being creepy. Were they a creep? Let's listen to the story and we'll decide at the end. Here's Nikki's creep on a lake.
Hi, Jordan and everyone at the Nighttime Podcast. I love creep encounters, and I encountered my own creep today at a lake. So I'm from the U.S., New Jersey specifically, and I was at a local lake in my town, and it's more of like a boat launch lake than like a beach area, but there are some spots if you walk through the woods, there's like areas where you can like set up. So I was set up there, and I saw this man in an inflatable little motorboat approaching, and I was in a bathing suit, so I like started to get a little uncomfortable, and I just started to like kind of like move my things around and just like make it known that someone else was there. And he said hi to me, I said hi to him, and all was fine. And then he was just like sitting there, and he gets out of the boat and he like submerges himself in the lake water, and he's like splashing himself, like playing like a child by himself. And I just like sat there for a while, like I can't really do anything or start tanning or go in the water until he leaves or moves. Like there's a huge lake and he's in the only spot that I am. So I'm like waiting, and he finally gets back in the boat, and he's like making his way, and there's probably like 100 yards I can see of lake from this small little cutout. So from the lake, there's probably 100 yards you can go before you like lose the cutout within your view. And for about 10 full minutes, this man did like 100-yard donuts to stare at me the entire time I was tanning. And I was just like on a blanket, like in the woods with the sun hitting me, like in a bathing suit. And he was just making me so uncomfortable, like staring at me so much that I had my shirt like over my bikini bottoms, and I had a towel over my top, and he just would not stop staring at me and like breaking his neck to look at me every time he like turned the boat around. And then as I started like packing my stuff up, because I was just like so uncomfortable, I couldn't even enjoy the lake, obviously, I am like packing my things up, and he like gets out of the water. He's like, so are you coming or going? I was like, well, I just got here, but I'm not sure what I'm doing now. And he was like, all right, well, my boat just keeps coming over here. I don't think I can help it. And I didn't really say anything, and he just kind of like stood there right outside of the lake and with his hands on his hips and just like stared at me. And then I started getting dressed again because I was just so uncomfortable by all of this. And he sat back down in the water like a child and just splashed himself with water. And then he sat there for a long time. And when his back finally turned, I called my mom, and I acted like she needed me home right away. And I left, and I went to a different spot because I'm lucky enough to have a bunch of local lakes. And I walked around, and when there wasn't many areas for me to go, I went back and just chose a different spot. And he wasn't even on the lake. He wasn't there anymore. So I don't think he had any interest with the lake or getting a tan, and only had interest with freaking me out. And like I said, I encounter a lot of creeps, so I don't fright easily, but I really trusted my instincts. I was in the woods alone with not many people out about 1 o'clock on a Tuesday, so I didn't risk it. But yeah, that was my creep encounter, and there are so many more where that came from, but this was just about 20 minutes ago. So thank you guys so much for everything you do, and please keep the series going. You guys are the best.
That story, I'm torn between, is it a creep or is it one of those people, like, I'm sure you've encountered the type of person that they just can't help but like socialize. They're the kind of people where you're in a lineup waiting to order coffee at Tim Hortons, and they feel the need to like turn around and just start like asking you questions or talking about stuff. Do you know what I mean? But like these, I call them painfully social people.
Yeah, I don't know. You're being very nice.
Maybe. But like getting in the water and kind of splashing himself and bobbing around near her is a little weird.
See, now this theory just came to me, and it can be applied to many of the stories we get in. This one, the guy in the car, we've had a couple guys in cars just like pull over and shoot their shot.
Mm.
I think this might be porn brain at work.
Oh.
These guys just have like this idea in their head of like some fantasy and how it's gonna go, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, like a girl alone on a
I'm
beach.
gonna just approach.
Yeah, I know how this
Yes.
ends.
Right? And it's like, no, you watch too much porn.
It could
That's
be
porn brain at work.
Yeah, I think in my mind she didn't describe his age or anything, so I was picturing him as this kind of like older, kind of simple guy who goes down to the lake and just wants to just like talk to people just because he's bored at home. He's already mowed the lawn and took out the garbage, so now he's going down to the lake and, oh, here's someone. How are you doing?
Well, see now I
Where
feel bad for
where
him.
your version of him is like he was like obsessed with porn and he thinks he's about to have like, a foursome with the 3 random women on the beach that he finds or something.
Yes. He's like boating on by in his inflatable boat, which I think is hilarious. And then he's like, "Ooh, look, a pretty girl. Let's see where this goes."
Yeah, I know where this
Like,
goes.
just leave her alone.
Yeah. Speaking of, let's see where this goes. Let's hear from a male who had a creep encounter. This is a listener named Michael who has a creep encounter that involves him making the decision to keep his shirt on. Here it comes.
Oh, poor Michael.
Hi, Jordan and Madelayne. This is Michael in Cincinnati. I'm 43. But I remember when I was in my early teens, maybe even younger, I happened to be going by a church, and the house next door, it seemed like they were renovating or cleaning it out. And I volunteered to help with that. I think I was just interested to see inside this old looking house. So they would pay me for my time, and they just wanted me to clear things out, like go into rooms and pick up the things and take them outside. Okay. But the creepy part was the guy who hired me kept telling me, "Oh, it's really hot. This kind of work is really hot. Why don't you take your shirt off?" And he said it like a few times, and I was a very modest kid, and I still am. And I absolutely refused to take off my shirt. And at the time, I thought it was a weird thing for that person to say. It's the kind of thing you can get away with because, I was a boy. It was hot. It was summertime. It wouldn't have been unusual for somebody to take off their shirt to do that kind of work. I get that. But that was still my choice, and that guy kept trying to get my shirt off, like me to take it off. And in hindsight, as an adult, I think that's pretty creepy. So I know you all like to debate, was it creepy or wasn't it? I think this is a good case where an outsider might say, I don't know, that was maybe normal, and I was taking it in a different way. Either way, I stuck to my guns, I kept my shirt on, and I got out of there without any other kind of thing happening to me. So overall, it was a success. But looking back on it, I have no idea why I put myself in that situation. Well, I guess the money.
Money puts many people in situations where they may encounter a creep, I imagine. But in this case, if Michael wants a debate, he's got the wrong story, because I think this is a creep.
Yeah, no. Unanimous decision. Before the voicemail was even over, creep.
Absolute
Super
creep.
creep.
Hey, like young strange boy that I'm alone in a house with. You should take your shirt off.
Like, please don't ask anybody to derobe, but especially a minor.
Alone
oh my
in this
God.
like it
so weird.
And I couldn't tell for sure, but he's like there was a church in this house next to the church, so I'm kind of picturing, you know, like the house, like on a church grounds there's usually like where the priests and nuns and stuff would live. I'm
Yeah.
imagining it was like something like that, and in my mind it was this old building full of weird stuff, so it was even creepier. And Michael says himself, the guy brought it up several times, like to take your shirt off. So there's
So
no
weird.
question. Bring it up once. Maybe
Maybe.
he chose the wrong words, and he meant to say like, "It's super hot in here. Like, don't pass out because of heat. You're sweating, kid. Like, go outside, cool off, take off your shirt, whatever you got to do. Go get some water, spray yourself down with the hose. No, it's all right, sir. I'm okay. No, kid, you should
That's the
take
end.
your shirt off. Let me spray you with the
Yeah.
hose.
The persistence is what makes it creepy.
Yeah. One time could have been poor choice of words, maybe no filter, maybe, or something. Persistence, absolute creep. Michael, get the hell out of there.
And like just the close proximity to the church, the odds aren't good. So just no.
Speaking of no, that's going to be a great segue to our next story, which I'm going to be calling Jason Noped Out of This Date. This is a good one. I like when the female is the creep. And
Me too.
yeah, Jason encountered one. This is an interesting one. Here it comes. And shame on you, woman involved in this story. You'll hear why.
Good day, Jordan and Madelayne. Here's a quick little encounters with creeps from a male perspective. That doesn't normally happen too often, I see. When I was about 26 years old, 27, I was living in Paris, Ontario. And I was on one of those dating sites and decided, I was chatting with this girl for a bit and decided to meet up with her. We went to Tim Hortons for a quick coffee and we're chatting away. Everything seems to be going great. And suddenly she says to me, "Hey, why don't we go back to my place?" I was like, "Okay, seems kind of forward." She goes, "Yeah, my husband won't be home for at least 2, maybe 3 hours." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that set me back." So I said, "All right, you lead the way." So I had my motorcycle at the time. She gets in her car. She goes to the highway. She turns left. And as quick as I could, I turned right and I booked it out of there. I don't know what her intentions were, but as soon as she mentioned that she had a husband, well, that was a stopper for me, and I was out of there.
Nice.
Anyways, guys, love the show. Keep it creepy. Talk soon. Jason.
There's a part of me that wishes Jason, like, because when he said, so I was like, yeah, let's go. There's a part of me that would have loved to have heard, what happened at the house. But
I know, I was like, is it going to get worse?
yeah, but good for you, Jason, making the right choice and bailing out of there. The fact that she would be so open and forward about the whole thing is pretty shocking, but teach their own, I guess.
I suppose.
Like,
yeah, I don't know. Like, I get that not like open relationships are a thing, but you'd think that's something you would be upfront about.
Well, she kind of
like,
was.
hey,
Well, like she
was.
She could have been before they sat down at Tim Hortons.
That's true. Oh, but he's not going to be home for a few hours. That makes me think that he doesn't know the relationship.
That's true.
Is
yeah. Yeah. All in all, that's a really weird first date, and it's certainly not a good ad for dating sites.
No. And yeah. Oh, poor Jay. You know what? He handled that like a pro though.
Mm-hmm.
Because like had that been me, I would have been like a bumbling fool. I would have been like,
Yeah. It would be shocking. Where the hell did he go with it? But the way he says it when she pitches it, he's like, yeah, I guess. Like I thought for sure when I first heard this story, I'm like, oh my God, he's going. But
yeah, he's like, not my
so I get on my motorbike. Yeah, it's not my problem.
And peeled
I
out
got
of
nothing
there.
to do this afternoon. With coffee on his breath on a motorbike. He's like, let's go.
But Jason has the moral compass. I don't know, not her.
Not her, certainly. We have a really wild one right around the corner here. Let's take an ad break so we don't have to interrupt the creepiest creep of all time coming next.
Of all 22 episodes?
I don't know, this one's bad.
Oh no.
Is this the creepiest creep of all time? Of all 22 episodes? I don't know. Maybe. The victim in this creep encounter is a listener named Yesenia. And this is a same-sex creep encounter with two females, which is interesting. Just interesting because it's a rarity on the show. It seems like the fellas out there are carrying more than their weight in being creepy in these stories. But Yesenia's creep's gonna more than make up for it. And this one is we talk a lot about the line we want. We want a creep encounter that we can laugh at to an extent. We want trauma with a lowercase t, not a capital T.
That's correct.
This one maybe tiptoes along the line, maybe slightly crosses it, but it is so shocking that we have to hear it. Listen to this.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Hi, Jordan and Madelayne. This is Yesenia calling from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Not sure if you're getting sick of hearing creep encounters, but
Never.
The one that I always have wanted to submit is, well, I'm in my early 20s now, but when I was in high school, I was about 16, I had a girlfriend, and we'd hang out at school, and there was this other girl that went to my school. I wasn't in any of her classes. I didn't know her. I don't even remember her name. Like, it was just so strange, but she would come and talk to me at lunchtime or whenever she saw me, and that was totally fine. We chatted. We were fine. We were good acquaintances, and then I started to notice that she was getting a little touchy with me, just getting a little weird, and I was catching an energy from her that was just sort of off. And I started to notice that when my girlfriend and I were at our lockers packing up for the day, she would be sort of standing like halfway down the hall or around the corner, sort of just like watching. And I thought I was being dramatic, and my girlfriend thought I was being dramatic, so I just sort of brushed it off. But then I started to notice, well, at this point it was clear that she was into me. She'd made a bunch of advances. It was just odd. But my girlfriend and I were walking home, and we're down the block from our school. Like, we're not at school anymore. And she was lurking, like, halfway down the block, just, like, sort of following us. And I knew that she didn't live in the neighborhood. She had told me that. So I didn't know why she was on my street. Anywho, this all culminated to one day I was in class and the door was open and she was not in this class, and this girl just came right in, just beeline towards me, and it happened so fast. But she pulled a lighter out of her pocket, ignited it, and just sort of like swooshed it across like my face, sort of. And my hair caught on fire, and it wasn't like dramatic, it wasn't like in flames, but my hair was on fire and it was like burning and you could smell it and it was falling and it was just fucking awful. Sorry, I don't think I can say the F word. I'm so sorry. But
I have to pause here. We do allow the F word, but it's certainly justified. When someone comes into your classroom and lights your hair on fire, that's a complete exception to the no cursing rule during the nighttime
Here
podcast.
or in the classroom.
Yeah, I think you're, Yesenia, you're completely justified in your use of the F-bomb. Let's get back to the story.
She just ran away after that, and the teacher was in the room, and he had told the principal, and then I guess she was suspended for a week. But then at the end of the day, I am leaving school, and she's standing on the corner of the block outside of my school holding chocolates and flowers, and she gives it to me with a card that's like, "I'm so sorry, like, I really hope we can still be friends, like, please come talk to me, call me up." And I was just like, what the heck? Anyways, safe to say I never spoke to her again. I don't really think I saw her much after that, but that is my creep encounter that comes to mind. Thanks.
Yesenia dodged a bullet. Like, coming out of that with a little bit of scorched hair on the front is a pretty good outcome for what could have happened there. This person is nuts.
Well, what was the end goal?
Well, I think the end goal was like this dysfunctional goal because it seemed like she wanted Yesenia, probably was jealous of the girlfriend, and somehow that erupts into her barging into the classroom with a lighter and waving it around in front of her face, which
I
I
guess.
don't know if that's supposed to be threatening or if it's what it is, but regardless, it is certainly grounds for being expelled from school, and it should be a ticket to like some kind of like mental health assessment.
Right. Yeah, that's bizarre. Like I'm
It's
just
completely bizarre. And then we have
huh.
the apology with the chocolates and flowers, which is you cannot really apologize for lighting someone's hair on fire during a jealous outburst.
No. I mean, you can, but I wouldn't accept it.
I don't think Yesenia did.
And like maybe just for future reference, take a different route. Like shoot your shot in a different way.
Well, yeah, but was it even the shooting of the shot was a vague expression of interest in these moments leading up
Yeah.
to it. This thing with like going into the classroom and with the lighter, I don't know what that even was, other than like it
Maybe she was trying to cast a spell.
yeah, maybe like were these
Could have been like a
a Wiccan?
seance.
It
Maybe.
does seem a bit like witchcraft or voodoo, but
Whatever it was a chargeable offense. Like
absolutely would be that's assault,
that's
right?
her assault. Yeah.
And maybe not even like one of like a generic assault. Like that could be like one of those kind of like ramped up versions of assault.
Well, now we're getting into like arson territory.
Yeah, or like
Yeah.
uh,
Ooh.
what
Oh, that one's so
yeah, it
weird.
is weird. And that's what's so creepy about it for me is just to walk into the classroom with other people there, presumably a teacher there, waving the lighter in front of her face close enough that it scorches some of her hair. As she's telling it, I can smell burnt hair and just imagine the
Yeah.
shock of everyone in the class like what the hell is going on?
Like what just
And same with
happened?
Yesenia, she's probably sitting there like what the hell is going on? Um and like can you imagine the discussion between the teacher, the principal, the guidance
Oh,
counselor, or whoever else trying to figure out how to handle this?
oh, school staff do not get paid enough.
No, no, certainly not.
Good grief.
Yeah, well, that's Yesenia's creepy creep. And like, is that a creep or is that the next level? That's just a straight up like, um,
Crazy person?
yeah.
Because it could have ended a lot
Oh,
worse.
absolutely. I'm
Like
shocked it didn't.
what if she, like when I was in high school, I used to have a ton of hairspray in my hair. Big hair was my thing. My hair would have gone up in flames like in a second.
Well, I just think, other than the lighter, if someone is bold and brazen enough to go in there with a lighter and do that, it's not a big leap to like actually getting a weapon or
No.
and you hear like the type of creep stories that we're talking about, again, trauma with a lowercase t, it's not a big step from that, what the type of stories we hear, to these kind of like stalker stories that have a horrible outcome. This story that Yesenia tells is definitely a step, or is like the missing link between the normal creep encounter we see and that horrific stalker story that doesn't end well. Hers is right in the middle there.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I don't like that. And she talked to Yesenia describes like getting these vibes, and she sensed something was weird. So I think when she saw this girl walk into the classroom and come towards her, I'm sure she knew like, oh shit, like something's happening here.
Yeah. You're not supposed to be here.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, that's a weird
that
one.
is a weird one. Yesenia, I'm glad you're okay, and you can now call the nighttime podcast and share it without too much
I
baggage.
I can't believe she doesn't remember her name though. I would remember her name forever and actively avoid her.
Did she say she didn't remember the name, or did she not want to say it?
I thought she said I don't even remember her name.
How's that possible?
Right? Like I'm good with names though. So
I'm not good with names, but if someone did that to me, I'd be good with their name. Like I can remember a couple people's
right?
names from high school that left like a big impression on me. The person that came into my class uninvited and lit my hair on fire, I would certainly remember their name.
Well, and especially because she should have written it in a police report. Maybe then
Seriously,
she
like,
would have remembered it.
yeah, like the peace bond application would have had it, and yeah, the civil suit against the girl's parents should have had it. Yikes.
Oh,
That is our selection of creep encounters for the evening. There are so many more. I think so. We're doing like between 7 and 8-ish per episode. I probably have 75 in queue.
oh my God.
So we got to get back on this horse. I guess I'll call out to listeners and say, how many of these do you want a month? Do you want one creep encounter episode a month? Should we do 2? Should we do an epic long one? What do you, the listener, want to hear in your encounter with creep series? Because it is the listener series. We're just going along for the ride. So if anyone out there has any opinions on the frequency or format for these episodes, go to nighttimepodcast.com/contact and first send us your creep encounter and then send me a separate message letting me know what you'd like to hear in this series.
A marathon creep encounters. Could you imagine?
Yeah, I could.
3 straight hours.
Yeah, just one after. We could do it like, I'm sure there's 5 hours of just creep stories there. Could you imagine?
Wow.
That'd be a tough listen.
Yeah. That would be, well, and depending on the creep stories, it might be a little heavy at times.
Yeah, seriously. Well, that's it. What's of all the stories we heard tonight, what do you think is gonna stick with you? And don't give the advantage to Yesenia's just because it's so shocking and so fresh, because it's the last one we listened to.
God, which one? Refresh me. What else did we
The
hear
Amsterdam
today? We had-
Hotel,
right?
the pool hall in Halifax / Facebook accounts, getting locked at a dad's house and having dude in the car give her a hard time, the creep at the lake, Michael keeping his shirt on while helping people move, and of course we had Jason noping out of the date with the unfaithful woman.
The dreaded Tim Hortons date.
Mhm.
That one gave me a good laugh. Just the way he told
The
it.
first red flag should have been a date at Tim Hortons. You have no class.
So Canadian.
Should be going to Robin's
Canadian.
Donuts. Anywhere else. Mick
Anywhere
Cafe at
else.
McDonald's. Come on.
What about you? What was your standout this one for this episode?
I don't know what it is. I think maybe because I've watched a lot of horror movies that involve like churches. The creep encounter with keeping the shirt on at the church, it just hits a lot of like kind of buttons within me where the way that plays out in my head was pretty cinematic. And although it's
like an M. Night Shyamalan scene.
yeah, no, I'm picturing more like in the style of like The Exorcist, something back then. Like it's a bunch of like priests and they're setting it up, waiting for kids to go by and help us move.
Take their shirts off.
They have just like all this cash to like help the kids, to motivate the kids to come help us move heavy stuff. They have the heat jacked up in the building just to make it even hotter.
And the things that they're moving are probably cursed.
Yeah, but I really liked Yesenia's story, and I loved the story at the beginning with the Knox Mountains, the creepy guy all in black.
Oh, outside of Paul's tomb.
Yeah.
Who is naming these things?
Yeah, that's creepy. But I just wonder what this guy was doing in that story, all in black with a rope. Like, was he? When I hear something like that, I'm like, oh, it's probably just some stupid TikTok trend that I don't know about. But it doesn't seem it because he was alone. So
Well, and what was he had a warrant out. So I wonder what other crimes he's committed.
yeah, I would like
Were
to
they
know.
linked or like similar or
Oddly-
just like left field?
And I tried to figure it out. I couldn't find his name, could find no other information other than news stories about this happening and then a police press release about the arrest and several media outlets reporting basically the same words that are in the press release. But no follow-up after that. So I would love to know where this goes. If anyone out there...
Well, I'm going to Kelowna next year for a wedding, so I'll do some investigating.
Yeah, some on-the-ground
Yeah.
investigation. Well, let's put a bow on this. Anyone out there who has a creep encounter right now, stop what you're doing and go to nighttimepodcast.com/contact and fire away. We'd love to hear from you. Madelayne Klein, thank you for another wonderful night of creep encounter unpacking.
It was overdue, but it was worth waiting for.
I want to thank you for joining Madelayne and I for this episode of Nighttime. I'm going to start wrapping up the episode, but before I do, let me end with some thanks. First, a huge and sincere thank you to everyone who took the time to share their creep encounters with us. These stories serve as a great reminder to keep our eyes open and our wits about us. And to all the other listeners out there who have a story to share, we're going to be doing many more episodes in this series, and we'd love to feature your story. You can share it with us at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. If you got something to share, go to the site now. The voice recorder's easy to use, and if you misspeak or make any mistakes, don't worry, as I'll edit before anything goes to air. We're excited to hear from you. Now, to start wrapping it up, let me give thanks to Madelayne for sharing another evening with me and with you, the listeners of Nighttime. A shout out to Monty, Datta, who contributes the music for this episode, and LJ from the Dystopian Simulation podcast, who provides our intro and outro voiceovers. But then lastly, and most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening, as without your interest and your support, Nighttime would be as pointless as it would be impossible. On the topic of support, I want to also thank the newest subscribers to the premium feed, Shanda, Steve, and Val. We appreciate you. If anyone else would like to support the show, you can do it in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs just a couple bucks a month, and that money funds the creation of new episodes. But the premium feed will give you those episodes 2 days early, give them to you ad-free, and give you access to a full back catalog of episodes. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can go premium at nighttimepodcast.com/subscribe. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media and letting all your like-minded friends know why they should listen. Your support is very much appreciated. And until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let us know if you see anything weird.
The Nighttime Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Jordan Bonaparte.
Okay, keep making the creep episodes because they are so fascinating, and they do really remind us that we have no reason really to put our guard down with strangers at all. And as a teacher, I definitely send that message to my students. Like, you don't have to be kind all the time. You don't have to be polite. If somebody is in your space, you have a right to tell them to back off. And so yeah, I love these episodes because they remind us to be safe above being kind.